was popping, man. It's your homie Boo Bang, man. Back with another motherfucking Boo Bang theory. Anyway, you know, I've been talking about church and religion, right? And last time I did the video, you know, I stopped at on session 5. And kind of got into last thing I was kind of talking about was Mithraism and Zoroastrianism, and kind of explaining that's where I was trying to take it on these next sessions, right? But I had to go back and think about it, like, so remember when I first started and started talking about Genesis and how the beginning became how it began, right? And I tried to share with y'all, or I tried to share some information that I had outside of the Bible from another source, right? That kind of expressed the perception of the Big Bang or the beginning, as is in Genesis, right? And so that's why I'm gonna start with this video right here, because I think I need to clarify that I need to clarify this first, and I want to be able to, you know, I want to be able to come in this motherfucker and just kind of roll it out instead of, you know, stretching it out so long. I'm about to just hit y'all with what I know and what I'm learning, you know what I'm saying, as far as this Bible and the contradictions and the different stories that I'm getting outside the Bible, right? So, and from this information that I got here, though, this comes from a higher density knowledge, right? So this comes from a high dimensional knowledge. This is not a third dimensional knowledge right here. This information that I got, this is not out of a book, you know. This information just didn't come from a book. So none of this information probably is not printed yet. Although some people, I'm sure, have the same information I have, I'm sure. But as far as any published works or anything, this information not here. And so some of the older Bibles do have other information, and then other books that was taken out of the Bible, like the Book of Enoch, have a lot of different valuable information that the world kind of been misled on and basically kept from the, you know, the information. And so anyway, so this information right here is how the perception of the beginning began. And so this is coming out a book that I'm writing, right? So all my notes, I don't have my book all, you know, formatted in pages yet. So I gotta shuffle through to make sense and make the story, you know, put together the story, right? So just bear with me though. So check it. The universe we find ourselves in today, and I read this in session 3. So if you've seen session 3, you're gonna notice that you heard this before. But like I said, I didn't have all my notes together to kind of put it in format like it's supposed to be. So let's check it out. The universe we find ourselves in today began about 20 billion years ago as a point of light in the mind of God. This point of light was contained within a greater point of light, which was contained within a greater point of light until infinity. There is an aspect of the Godhead that has always existed and that expands and contracts an infinite number of times All of life is continually expanding and contracting, much like the kaleidoscope. According to other sources, during the process of the Godhead differentiating itself in the expansion phase, it made a number 2 of itself. So, according to sources, during the process of the Godhead differentiating itself in a expansion phase, it made a number 2 of itself. So the Godhead made a number 2 of itself. It is said in the beginning, when the one was all there was, Creator became lonely. So to combat the problem that according to the sources, during the process of the Godhead differentiating itself in the expansion phase, it made a number 2 of itself. It is said in the beginning, when the one was all there was, Creator became lonely. So to combat that problem, the one divided itself by 25%. So the one infinite Creator divided itself by 25% to create another lesser version of itself. So the one infinite Creator created a number 2 of itself because it was lonely, but only using 25% of itself, created a number 2 of a lesser version of itself. This new number 2 quickly realized that's exactly what it was, lesser. So the new number 2 quickly realized that's exactly what it was, lesser. The one could have split itself in half and made them equal, but the Creator didn't. And when the one finished what Creator had set out to create, the universe, number 2 took defiance to the fact Creator played no role whatsoever in all that was created. Okay, so as God was here all by himself, he felt lonely. So in the expansion phase, God created a number 2 of himself, which only putting in 25% of himself to make sure that the number 2 was lesser than himself, right? But the lesser number 2, saying that as God was creating, that he wasn't a part of it. So this is why I have to jump back over here to this page. So, during one of the expansion phases, approximately 4.5 billion years ago, the world we call Earth was formed out of primordial dust and gases. Like all newly formed worlds, it was mostly hydrogen and a few other gases, not containing the kind of life we know. And so, throughout this physical chemical process, the Godhead in the expansion phase differentiated itself into units of consciousness, which later became known as souls. And so then I have to stop right here. Then when I go back over here, And then say, as God was creating all these planets, and number two realized that he wasn't a part of it. It's still too loud. So number two, as God, number one, was creating all the planets and the earths 4.5 billion years ago, the second creator realized that he played no role in the creation. So it goes on to say, upon realizing the sole purpose of number two's existence was to keep the number one from becoming lonely, Creator decided to leave. Number two fell from grace. And so this is the fall from grace that people be talking about, the fall from grace. So the number two Creator was upset or disappointed that he had no part in being and creating what number one Creator created. And also, upon finding out that he was lesser than Creator, number one Creator, that he was a number two creation, he decided to leave number one's side. So number two Creator decided to leave number one's side. Number two fell from grace and rejected Creator's place at the side of Creator's Creator and left. So that's what I was just explaining. So number two Creator fell from grace because he rejected number one Creator's place at the side of number one Creator. And so at the time, number two didn't realize it, but its choice to leave introduced something new to the universe. So upon number two leaving the number one Creator side, he didn't realize that he was creating something or introducing something new to the universe. This whole new universe, he had just created something even newer. So by leaving number two things actually conflict. So at the time, number two didn't realize it, but its choice to leave introduced something new to the universe. Two things actually: conflict and free will. So by number two leaving the number one Creator's side, he had introduced something new to the universe, which was conflict and free will. Number two took up precedence in a far off corner of the universe. It didn't take long to realize the Creator was all alone, just as well as the one had divided itself to solve the same problem. So too did number two. And so number two went off and took precedence or residence in a far off corner in the universe. And it wasn't too long before number two realized why number one created a number two from the fact of being lonely. So number two realized number one created him because he was lonely. And so now he's feeling the same effect that number one was feeling, because he's way off in this distant corner in the universe, away from all of creation. And so number two took up precedence in a far off corner of the universe. It didn't take long to realize, though Creator was all alone, just as well as the number one had divided itself to solve the same problem, so did number two. Number two didn't want to face the same dilemma that number one had faced, right? So number two is saying number two didn't want to face the same dilemma that number one had, far as creating only one number two, and then number two leaving. So number two is saying he don't want to face the same dilemma that number one had, which if he only make one of himself, he got the chance of that one that he made leaving him, right? So number two didn't want to face the same dilemma, so Creator divided himself into 6 equal individuals. So number two, Creator divided itself into 6 equal individuals, and they quickly set out to develop this corner of the universe into their very own Eden. Hold on. To their very own, my fault, that was the wrong one. See, that's why I said I gotta put this stuff together. And so they set out to develop this corner of the universe into their very own version of what the rest of the universe was like. However, the division into 6 individuals had corrupted the very nature